shout out to the comment section on the All In podcast. It's you guys are always leaving some pretty good gems down there. Um, I'm gonna talk about a couple things. The major one that you saw in the comment section, and my overall vibe was I was happy listening to the episode until J. Cal started going at Sax again, and it's at if you haven't listened or if you want to re-listen, it's at about 1 hour, 8 minutes and 30 seconds, and it's when Sax is talking about Ukraine and Crimea, and J. Cal just keeps pressing him, trying to get him to kind of put something down on paper about his opinion or what he feels. I don't even want to say it was passive aggressive. It was just straight up aggressive. Like, you don't really see J. Cal do that to Friedberg or Chamath. It's like, are these dudes really friends? It seems like two random people arguing about politics in a line at Starbucks. Like, aggressive, just nasty. And it's like, this makes me want to turn the show off. I almost just flipped on to the next thing because I don't want to listen to that bullshit. I don't mind hearing about political aspects. I do not want to hear two people bicker because they're dug in like ticks about their political ideologies. It's annoying. The world has too much of that. There's also too much content to consume out there to have to listen to that crap. So, excuse me. I'm just sitting back saying, you hear Sax talking about taking a break, needs to step away, maybe a month or so. And it's like, if I'm him right now and I got to do episodes and I got this guy that's like constantly just foaming at the mouth, waiting for me to say something to try to jump down my throat, or I wouldn't want to do the podcast either. It's like you need to hear four people giving their opinions, and it's okay to challenge each other, but just go back to at 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 30 seconds when it starts. Listen to that all the way to the end where J. Cal goes, will you just answer the question I've asked 3 times? It's like, why does Sax got to answer your goddamn question? Like, I'm on some TV interview or a presidential debate. Like, I'm surprised. I got to give Sax credit. I would just say fork off. Like, who are you talking to right now? If you look at the way that J. Cal talks to Sax, it's just disrespectful. And it's like, I get it. Sax is kind of out on this little island with his opinions. And I think, a lot of people don't agree with what he's saying. Some agree with what he's saying, but let everyone speak. Everyone's got a little bit different take on things, and that's what makes the pod cool. What's not cool is to just see that bullshit. So the more that goes on, the less I want to listen to All In. I love the show, and it's unique, but there are many other places to get good content. So, go listen to it for yourself. J. Cal just constantly has to interrupt people, but it's just the bickering with Sax. I've talked about it before. It's just old. And look, man, if I had to pick between Sax and J. Cal, I can live without J. Cal. He never brings a tremendous amount of insights. Friedberg slays it. Chamath's got his thing going on. Sax got his thing going on. J. Cal's there, and he's good when he's funny. He's sometimes good at directing the show. But like this crap, I'm just over it. And I can see why Sax ain't saying it. I know he's a busy guy, but anyone's got the 2 hours to do the recording, right? I'm not enjoying this anymore. And he's just not going to come out and say that. If you don't watch that clip and understand that that's probably why Sax is leaving, then I don't know. So some other insights. I don't know what in section 2 there, Chamath was talking about. He was meeting with, some fund CEO or something. They had a meeting and they talked about how they would never invest in this guy because of his attitude, his disrespect for money, his ego. And Chamath was talking about just kind of how in the good times this happens. And I think we'll look back and say things like maybe Snapchat, essentially. If you look at how they structured their stock, I was never a big fan of that. I always questioned whether or not they had a sustainable business model. Was it just a fad? Overall, a lot of these tech CEOs are just, they're so full of ego. They go make their billions and then they cash out and they leave this like flaming turd here for the investors to inhale. I can't imagine what it's like. I do a small amount of startup investing, much, much smaller. I make micro stuff, right, compared to what these guys are doing. Usually, you come across the people that are confident, humble, they just want to grow their thing. Every once in a while you get pitched from these people that are on, they're smoking their own stuff, that's for sure, and they like think they're the next Bill Gates. Not enjoyable people to work with, right? I can't imagine what it's like working at these massive VCs and the egos they have walking through their door every day. And you notice that in the good times, everybody does good. I've said that about all the restaurants around here that I couldn't believe stayed in business the last year and a half. When everyone's flush with money, everyone does well because the good restaurants are packed. You can't go there, so you end up going to this other place, and they survive just because it's the only place open and available. 2008 showed you what happened there. All the bad restaurants went out of business, and all the good ones survived. How many times did you get a screenshot from somebody, June of 21, showing you their Robinhood profile and how much money they're making? They had no idea what the hell they're doing. It's just pretty much everything you bought went up. So, yeah, everyone does good in good times, and then these egos grow because you're looking at a lot of these startups and things are doing well, and they start thinking it's all about them. It's doing well because you are such a sick genius, dude. And then times get tough and everything crashes. And I tell that story a lot when I'm talking to young entrepreneurs. I've, been in business, starting companies, investing in them for, 2 decades. I had to live through the, tech crash in 2000. I had to survive 2008. Got through the COVID mess, going into another downturn. It's goddamn hard to stay in business for 20 years, man, and keep growing. And it's like, if you've never seen this, if you've never had to live through a downturn, if you've only lived through the good times, you do begin to believe it's you, that you're some magic genius. And it's like, nope, man, you'll get tested, you'll show your worth when times get rough, and we'll see. It's I kind of feel like Facebook's going through that now. They had their heyday, and now it's just not looking so good for them. They screwed up Instagram, which I love that platform. If I had to pick one, that's where I put my time into, because I wasn't a fan of Twitter. Don't even get me started on TikTok. It's Instagram was a good place to if you wanted to build a social following. They ran that in the ground with the algorithm, trying to make it TikTok. The VR thing doesn't look like it's going so well. Meta's not going so well. Like, they're trying to pivot. And it's like, man, you had one thing at the right time and you rode that wave and you made billions and billions and billions of dollars, and then can you do it again? I think a lot of times people talk about Google that way, where yes, they created the search engine, but a lot of their other successful things were companies they bought. It's not stuff that they developed and did a startup on themselves. In fact, many of the projects they did themselves failed. Hell, does anyone remember Google Circles? Google whatever the hell that was? So, again, I think we're looking at a different era coming here in the next, 3 to 5 years, where things are going to slow down. It's going to be harder to get capital, and people are going to be a little more cautious about throwing money at these, like, there's so many new apps and ideas that's like, we don't really need that. But it's like, here's $1 billion. It's like, Jesus Christ. I think a lot of companies are going to suffer the same fate that Peloton had, where there's trillions and trillions of dollars pumped into the system unnaturally. Everyone boomed, and for some dumb reason, everyone thought that it was going to last forever. And I own a handful of companies. I got a couple more. It's in the startup phase right now. One of them, actually two of them, I got approached from PE firms about, coming through and buying a tranche. We were talking about growth plans, and they're like, well, could you be growing faster right now? And I'm on the phone with, there's another firm, General Partner maybe or something. And I'm like, look, man, I'm trying to grow as fast as possible to where if things slow down, which they will, I'm not going to be put in a significantly bad position. Now, I could try to maximize profits right now, but that's going to come with a cost later. And to me, there's like a certain speed to grow, knowing that there will be a crash. And they're like, well, are you certain there's going to be a crash? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy is running a fund. And I'm like, my own opinion. I'm not an economist, never claimed to be one. I don't give financial advice. I just been here, done that a few times, and I've never lived through a time when the government pumped in all this money. And if I had to make a prediction, companies are going to boom and then they're going to bust. And when it comes to that bust cycle, I don't want to have 30% too much staff. So I want to try to find a way to maximize revenue growth right now. Try to, not even maximize profits, because a lot of the profits goes back into growing the business. I just don't want to be put in a position where when the slowdown hits, that I end up like Peloton, where you're just wiping everybody out. So we had a few more conversations about that. And, I see Amazon CEO coming out, putting a similar message out, like, hey, there's going to be no rewards for growing headcount right now. We're going to focus on being frugal. We're going to grow in a different way. I think Chamath brought this up in the last part of the All In podcast. And I think you're seeing Google, Facebook trim a few people off. Amazon's coming off saying this growth thing's gonna change. What it was is coming to an end, and we're gonna have to be a little smarter about things. And that's why I talk about, Chamath again. He keeps talking about we're building a bottom right now. The bottom's starting to consolidate, and he said that in a couple other episodes, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I just don't believe it. I'm not saying Jamie Dimon is some harbinger, clairvoyant guru. I just feel that maybe 6 of 10 of the things he says is right, maybe 7 of the 10, and I think a couple of those things he's talking about are going to come true, where 2023 is going to be difficult. You're seeing the layoffs hit now, even though it's not in the news for some reason. You're seeing credit go up. They were talking about, if you've been tuning in, you listen to All In podcasts, you probably listen to CNBC and Bloomberg, right? A lot of the analysts, economists were talking about the savings accounts that, they were strong. Americans had a lot of money, until you see that chart dipping down on the savings now, and you don't hear them saying that anymore. Credit card debt in general is at an all-time high, and it's getting racked up significantly faster. So you're burning up that savings money and you're racking up debt. And, the big thing what, people don't understand is 2008 wouldn't have been so bad if people stayed employed. And if people stayed employed, they could service the debt. Now, some of those adjustable rates and crap, well, maybe they couldn't afford that. But as we learned, where any country that had a tremendous amount of debt, as long as they collect taxes to service the debt, everything's fine. That's how debt is in general. As long as people are employed and they can keep making money and they can keep servicing the debt, things don't fall apart. If we have a tremendous amount of layoffs next year, that's the concerning part. Powell saying he wants to get to 4.5% unemployment. I think it's going to end up higher than that if they keep raising rates the way they are. 4.5%, 5% unemployment. You got dual income people trying to pay their mortgages. They bought all these cars and RVs and jet skis and the second homes, and they needed 2 incomes to pay for all that. Well, when the layoffs hit, this job market stuff's going to dry up, because you saw 1 million jobs disappear recently off the opening list. And now you're not going to be able to service a debt. So add that up, right? Don't have enough income to service a debt. My savings are low, and I racked up a tremendous amount of new debt. This story does not end well, and I think the big companies see that coming, and they're trying to batten down the hatches now. So, I like listening to Chamath. I hope it's the bottom. I hope we just go through maybe the 6 bad months and we bounce back. I've never seen a time in history where we've bounced back from crazy high inflation that fast, let alone a time when we pumped in trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And, for the fun of it, just go, I think if you look up like New York Fed balance sheet, you can find the chart. They haven't really unwound that much yet. They went from like 8.9 trillion down to like 8.7 trillion or something. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm going off my memory. And it's like, if the market dropped down this much because we only dropped down a couple hundred billion and they wanna unwind trillions, where the hell are we going? And it seems like they're trying to straddle this thing where they're gonna raise rates and just not really unwind it slowly. Because I thought I saw a little tick up there at one point where it seems like the markets were crashing and they bought more. So they're trying to do this soft landing, and I just don't think it's going to happen. We're going to get through the election, which it sounds like there's a CNBC article I sent a buddy that Biden was talking about, telling the Saudis to, delay their decision to cut, OPEC by a month or something until after the elections. And whatever, it's a CNBC article. It's as close as I can probably get to whether this is true or not. I just feel like, as I think Democrats, Republicans, anybody would do the same thing. They would all try to keep gas prices low until after the election. After the election, we're probably going to have to start pumping oil back into the SPR. But we got a choice. We can't run it down to nothing. So we're going to take away the supply, and then we're going to add demand to the oil markets. We're going to watch gas prices go up, which is going to keep inflation remaining sticky, which is going to force the Fed to raise rates even more. We're going into a time of higher rates. They're probably going to start unwinding the balance sheet a little more aggressive. And you can say the Fed's not political. I just believe it always has been. They're going to be different after the election. We might see some more crash going into Q1 of 2023. So I don't know. I don't like making predictions. I'm not an economist. I ain't nothing. I'm just sitting back and saying I don't see anything positive. I don't see anyone or hear anyone talking growth. And when that happens, it's usually not a good thing. So we know layoffs are coming. We know that rates are going to go up more because they don't have a choice. We know gas is probably going to go back up. And it seems like no one's got a solution for any of this stuff. I hope Chamath is right. I don't know if I see a bottom here, and I don't know where the bottom is. And it's like, we'll find out when we get up to 4.5%, 5% unemployment. Another thing we keep leaning on is this like red hot job market. And, something we got to keep in mind, I got a report coming out here. We just got the Research Commission to back it up. But the thought that when I'm talking to business owners or even executives at large companies, their departments are a lot bigger than they were in 2019 to get the same work done. It used to take 10 people to do the same amount of output. Now it's 12 or 13. That's also put a tremendous amount of stress on the job market. Companies just had to hire more people to get the same amount of stuff done. And that productivity and the higher wages is going to really hurt profits and earnings. So that's going to come back to bite us. And I think a lot of that was disguised in the overspending we did in the last 18 months with all the stimulus. And then it's also kind of hidden in the price increases from inflation. It's, revenue is going up. Well, revenue is going up because prices are forking higher. And I think once that all busts out and settles, we might see earning guidances really change. But we'll see. Anyways, I hope Sachs doesn't leave. I don't love, a lot of the stuff he says. It's nice to hear the other side of things. I always enjoy Freeberg's stuff. Chamath, he's hit or miss. There was a little bit of balance there and trying to hear all these different perspectives. And I guess if I'm Sachs and if you just go listen to that 1 hour, 8 minutes and 30 seconds when it starts about Ukraine and the way JCal, I'm like, look, man, I think a lot of people in life, when you get to that level, if someone was talking to you that way, you would pimp slap the shit out of them. Like, it's like, don't talk to me like that. And, Sachs did kind of, these things are edited a little bit too. Maybe there was some words exchanged and we'll never know. But it's like, Jesus Christ, just back off. I'm trying to give you my insight. I'm trying to give you my opinion. And the way he kept coming at him like a rabid dog. And I'm just thinking, yeah, it doesn't really seem like friends, right? These don't seem like people that. It's not about having a spirited debate. It's how and why someone comes at you. You know, it's healthy to have those, higher energy type debates. But it wasn't really a debate. It was just J. Cal trying to press Sax to get something on the record. I'm like, why do you want? So you can come back and use it against him later? It just doesn't seem right. And if I'm Sax, I'm like, F off. I got too much other stuff to do. So, anyways, that's my insights for episode 100. I hope they keep the pod going. As we all know, though, it's hard to keep the band together forever. And, yeah, we'll see what happens. Let me know what you think about that. That little encounter between Sax and J. Cal. Drop a comment below.